the top 5 NFL defensive tackles of all time. So Warren Sapp, somebody says Warren Sapp top 5. No, absolutely not. And again, that doesn't mean Warren Sapp's not great. I'm not saying he's not great, but top 5? No. So here we go. Going from 5 to 1. Number 5, undersized defensive tackle. Didn't get drafted. Thought he was too little. And he was, technically, at the time. 244 pounds his senior year. Coming out of, I think it was Texas A&M Kingsville. Either way, John Randall. Absolute menace. 6-time first-team All-Pro. 7-time Pro Bowler. Had 137 sacks. Did y'all realize that? That John Randall ended his career with 137 sacks. Unblockable. Literally unblockable. On the edge. 3 technique, just running by people. Power, speed, nastiness. Give me John Randall. Give me, because you at that size, you have to be a technician. You're not just bull rushing people at 280 pounds. That's just not happening. You're not doing that consistently. So you got to be a technician. Hand placement, foot placement, setting guys up, all that stuff, film study. Give me John Randall at number 5. Now, here is where it starts to get a little tricky, but at number 4, Allan Page. Let me look at something here. Let me go through my notes here. Boom, 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 boom. And there it is. Allan Page. That's what I thought. That's what I wrote down there. Number 5, Allan Page. First of all, Allan Page, underrated. Underrated defensive tackle. He played back in the 70s, but absolutely underrated. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. And again, now this is unofficial, 148 sacks. Now, he played in an era where they didn't record him, but 148 from the defensive tackle position. Unbelievable. All-decade team. Played on those 4 teams of Minnesota that went to the Super Bowl. Didn't win any. Went on to become a lawyer and a judge. Allan Page. Underrated. And again, this was back, I know people are thinking, well, those guys weren't as big, but for that time, those guys were monsters. Just absolute monsters. So, but yeah, Allan Page, undersized, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. Absolutely incredible from the defensive tackle position. Not to mention, Allan Page, 8-time Pro Bowler, or 9-time Pro Bowler, 8-time first-team All-Pro. So there's that. Pretty good. Next on the list, number 3, Mr. Cowboy, Bob Lilly. Now, look, I don't necessarily like, you all know how I am about the Cowboys. I'm the vice president of the Cowboys Hater Committee. But a man was 11-time Pro Bowler, 7-time first-team All-Pro. I mean, what do you want me to say? Seriously, what do you want me to say? 11 times in the Pro Bowl, 7 times first-team All-Pro. He was on the all-decade team in the 60s and the 70s. So, 2 decades, he was one of the best defensive tackles that played in the National Football League. Mr. Cowboy, Bob Lilly, comes in at number 3. Again, big for his time, athletic, strong at the point of attack, ton of push, initial punch, Lord have mercy, and was a technician with his hands. You just couldn't keep your hands on him because he was knocking you off. Bob Lilly, Mr. Cowboy, comes in at number 3. So, all right. Number 2. Now, this one, I wanted to put him at number 1, He's number one in my heart. He's number one in my heart. Mean Joe Green. First of all, that's the best nickname in sports history. Mean Joe. Mean Joe Green. And he played with an attitude, just a bad attitude. Was nasty. Fun fact about Mean Joe Green, by the way, played over half his career with nerve damage in one of his arms. Was still that dominant with extreme nerve damage in his right, I think it was his right arm. Fun fact, didn't know that about him. He was the first player in NFL history to win the Defensive Player of the Year award twice. Was the anchor of the Steel Curtain defense that, in my estimation, the best defenses of all time. I know people will throw out, the 2000 Ravens or the 85 Bears. Nobody wants to hear that. You won one title. Get out of here. Get out of here. Steelers won 4 titles in 6 years. 9 Pro Bowlers. Stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Steelers defense. And Mean Joe was the anchor. He was the anchor. He was that guy. Couldn't move him. Invented the shade as far as a nose tackle. Unblockable. Would slide through between the center and the guard because he would tilt. He would tilt a little bit, and he was too quick. You couldn't block him. Could not block him. Had to shorten your splits down to be able to get in front of him. Well, when you did that, that caused problems on the end. Mean Joe was just that guy. Number 2, Mean Joe Green. And number 1, you can call it recency bias if you want to. But you can't. You can't. 10 years in the league. He made the Pro Bowl all 10 years. 8 times first team All-Pro. 111 sacks. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Universally known as one of the most unblockable and the most dominating defensive players in the history of the National Football League is Aaron Donald. I don't care if Aaron Donald retired today. They need to put him in the Hall of Fame now. The whole waiting 5 years is stupid anyway, in my opinion. I know they always say, well, guys might come back and play. Who cares? Who cares? For instance, if Aaron Donald, if you put him in the Hall of Fame this year and he came back next year and said, you know what, I want to continue to play, and he plays awful, does that mean he's still not a first ballot Hall of Famer? Does that take away from what he did the first 10 years of his career? Hell no, it doesn't. So why do we have to wait? It doesn't make any sense. If you're a Hall of Famer when you end your career, how are you not a Hall of Famer 5 years after? Why do you have to wait? Either you are or you're not. You can't do anything in between that time period that's going to make you a Hall of Famer. So I just think the reasoning behind that, why they make people wait, it's almost like, well, they're in the Hall of Fame, but they can't be playing. Why? We didn't know Jerry Rice wasn't the greatest receiver to ever play while he was still playing. Of course we did. So why do we have to wait? Either way, Aaron Donald is the guy. Number 1 defensive tackle of all time. It's not recency bias. I know people will say that. Prisoner of the moment, which I'm a huge proponent of. But Aaron Donald was just that good. You couldn't block him. And he wrecked shop up until the very last snap that he was on an NFL field. If you didn't account for him, you had problems. You had problems up till the very last snap. If you didn't account for Aaron Donald, you had problems. Just that simple. It's just that simple. And you better account for him with a minimum of 2 guys. Because if you don't, he's going to wreck your backfield. He's going to wreck your play. Ask Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. They thought they could get by without blocking them, or only blocking them with 1 guy. The last play of the Super Bowl, Jamar Chase is wide open, but guess what? Aaron Donald was hitting your quarterback because they thought, we'll slide the protection. We'll let our guy block one-on-one. Hopefully he can get in the way. Well, guess what? He couldn't get in the way. Stupidity at its finest. And that's what happens. That's how Aaron Donald, if you didn't block him, he wrecked your play with two guys, period. And sometimes when you did block him with two guys, he wrecked your play. Strong, athletic, just was mean, but not dirty, but super mean, basically. And he wasn't 340 pounds. I mean, he wasn't even 300 pounds. That's what Aaron Donald is doing. Wasn't even 300 pounds. Just dominating your offensive guards. Whoever he was around, he's dominating them. That's how good he was. Could rush up and down. And I'm sorry, Dynamite Dave. Sapp is not 2 or 3. Warren Sapp is not 2 or 3. You got to stop that. Got to stop that. We love Warren Sapp. We think he's great, but he's not in the top 5 defensive tackles of all time. He's just not. He's just not. So we love him, but he ain't top 5. So there's the top 5. Going from 5 to 1. John Randall, Allan Page, Bob Lilly, Mean Joe Green, Aaron Donald. It's been a fun series, man. It's been a fun. We only got one position that we're going to cover left. We're going to do that next week. That's quarterback. That'll be fun. That's going to be fun because I'm going to ruffle feathers. I'm going to ruffle feathers. Y'all know me. And it's going to be fun. So, what else do we got, people? What do we got today on this lovely Friday? So, what do we have? Wakan says, not top 5, but Randy White was very scary. Yeah, he was. And I debated putting him in the top 5, too. I think he's 6, maybe 7, in my opinion. Randy White was very – here's the thing about Randy White. Hell, he started his career as a middle linebacker in the pros. As a backup. Imagine being that guy that made that decision. Oh, we're going to have Randy White. We're going to have him be a backup middle linebacker. He played defensive end coming out of college, but we're going to have him as a backup linebacker.